Jules, the J.
The J team.
4, 5.
Yeah.
So it's, okay. And I know that we had a couple, we do, can we send them the WebEx link, but I don't see them in there. I told them to be live.
We can only see the left side of the table.
Like this side?
Yes.
Turn your head side or
Not the people over there.
I can see it all.
I can see it all too. I think.
I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, I see the whole thing.
The visual that we're seeing of us is the whole room.
I only see Chris and Tara. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, Chris and Vicky.
More than you
That's
see
fine.
anyway. So.
You, Vicky's not.
It's okay. I'm ghosting tonight.
I was gonna look at the camera, but.
I mean, at the top of Tara's head. I mean, you're.
Well, we're seeing the same. We're seeing the
Yeah,
picture
the
of us.
view that-
It looks pretty centered.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it looks centered to me.
Maybe I need to expand. All right, never mind.
I don't know what to do.
I'll let them know when we do the comments. I don't know. Okay, well, I think we'll just have to make the best of it. So, it's 5:33. Are we ready to record? I will push record. Okay, or whatever.
Yeah.
we do.
Tara, do you want me to let Eric Waller in? He's in the lobby.
He's gonna do a community comment. So
Okay.
I think, yeah, I'll let him in when we do our comments.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'd like to call a meeting to order. And first, let's take a look at today's agenda. I know that the community comments are in regards to the disc golf, so I'd like to recommend switching items 3 and 4 to accommodate our community speakers. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure.
And with that change, do I have a motion to pass the,
I move to approve the agenda.
thank you, a second? I'll second. All in favor?
All right.
Yay, yes. Okay, then, approval of summary notes, those were sent out. Were there any changes or corrections? Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Okay. So, then we go to community comments, and I know that the comments are in regards to disc golf, so. Shall we go to that?
Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Eric. We are in the community comment section of the agenda. We've moved our disc golf discussion right up to that. I know your role in the disc golf course, and while our community comments are usually 5 minutes per person, I would like to invite you to stay for the entire disc golf discussion, if that's what you'd like, and to add to that. So do you want to start with community comments?
I can certainly start. I just wanted to, I wanted to be part of the discussion because my son is the scout that built the course. And as I looked at the agenda and I saw different things about budget and things that needed to be done to improve the play or improve the look of the course. I just had some suggestions, some ideas, but the main thing is the course was really designed by my son to be a challenging course, a very tight, with sharp turns, not the typical course that you would see in a big city park where just big open and you can throw the disc and it can kind of go anywhere and you can recover. It was more of a very pinpoint targeted, and it was designed with a a gentleman from who was related to somebody from the church that designs pro disc golf courses as a living around the nation. And over the years, different people playing and even the church in maintaining it have stripped away some of the underlying branches, some of the obstacles that were actually designed to be there to make the course more challenging. And so that was one thing I wanted to make sure that from a Parks Department taking it over, you guys can obviously do with it what you want, but that really the intent of this course was to play very tight and very strategically through the course. So.
Okay. Good information.
Very evident.
But I'm happy to listen to the rest of it.
So, why don't, if it's okay, as chair, I'd like to maybe suggest that, Eric Waller also participate in our discussion. So if you can hang on, Eric, that would be great. And then did Carson Waller, is he in the waiting room?
He is, he's heading to work right now, so I think he's in the car and wasn't able to connect.
Okay. So I want to start with the board. I know that we had a homework assignment to go walk the golf course. And I just wanted to ask, just start with, what are your general just reactions? For some of you, it was probably the first time that you've seen it, I bet.
It was the first time I saw it. And I thought it was really well. I think it did confuse me a little bit. So I had a hard time tracking, although I thought I wouldn't. I'm familiar with disc golf, but I think I got to 8 and then I'd missed 7 and then I had to go to 6. So I think just the flow, a little map would have been helpful. But other than that, I thought it was a great course, a great location, nice use of space. And I thought it would be challenging. I looked at that going,
I'm actually a member of one Christian church, and but that was the first time I'd walked the course, and I was impressed by how extensive it was. I didn't expect it to go all the way down the hill and so forth, but like Julie, I got lost. I missed the pin and had to backtrack. I did find them all, but they kind of overlapped there. I don't think that's a problem. I think it just ideally you'd have a course card or with a map on it or something like that. But a nice walk. Obviously there's grass that needs to be trimmed. There's trees that are down and so forth. But yeah, I was impressed.
How about our board members who are joining us online? Jane and John, did you get a chance to get on the course?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. Is it the church that owns the property and we're just looking to kind of let the city use it then?
Let's review the agenda. So
Okay.
We want to start with just a little bit of history, and I'm gonna rely on Ken to talk about how it's owned. And then Eric talked about how the golf course was originally built as an Eagle project by Boy Scout Troop 149. And then I want us to kind of articulate from our observations and what we've heard from others who use it, kind of the current state, including use, condition, access, maintenance. I want us to generate and consider ideas for the future, determine if any additional information is needed, and maybe some things are outside of our circle of control. And then what is our actual recommendation for staff and city council as we go forward? So how about if I hand it over to Ken, just give us a little bit of the history of the ownership of that and use and their most recent report. And I will also share, as a member, I went and walked the whole course and I hadn't actually been on it since it was built. Sorry, Eric. But it was an awesome walk. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really appreciated that it was all mowed to make it easy. So Ken, why don't you kick us off with, what is the history of this as far as ownership, access? I mean, it clearly has like no signs and
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and Eric, fill in anything I'm not the expert on, because I think originally, obviously it was built by an Eagle Scout originally. I think they talked to the city and then we kind of paired them up, if I remember. But the property is all owned by Willamette Christian Church. Once it was built, it was basically, open to the public. It's certainly to this day is still being used. The church has always, since its inception has, in my conversations with them, have supported it. It's not ever really been highly publicized with signage. They have put some signs kind of down Brandywine that are no parking. They're very faded right now. And most of that is just kind of there. Some of it was for church parking, but to make sure that, the course itself and those participating didn't interfere with, what they're doing as a business, as a church and those types of things. So, and it's really, I think, been, while it's being utilized, it's certainly being underutilized through the years because of, I think it was built, it was great, but it was a challenging course, it still is. I think, since then, things have overgrown a little and the maintenance and upkeep really hasn't happened. And then we had the storm in 21 and some more trees fell down and, so it's probably in need of some tune-up. And I think part of the decisions that we need to look at, as Eric explained, how it was designed. And the original intent was that challenging forest course, and there are some of those out there. As we look at maintenance and trying to get it to be a little more utilized in the city, possibly just partnering with the church. How much do we do to change that design at all and make it more usable? And those are, just kind of, because we know that there are some trees that are causing issues and some of our safety issues and some of them are people view as being in the way. Now, I don't know if anybody at the church has ever been articulated to them or recent new management of the church that this is how it was designed with a professional designer to be that challenging. So, that's something that I didn't even realize that, to be honest, that was the intent of the design. So, some of the things that if we partner, we might have looked at, well, let's whack this branch off and take this tree out. Those might not be things that honor the original design or are best for the course or the community. Those are open conversations that we want to have, so it gets utilized. The church today would like people to utilize it.
They would, okay.
Yeah, we've talked about, Oregon recreation community laws and, they checked with their attorneys after I kind of explained that to them, a while ago. And, as long as you're not charged, we have very fortunate, statutes in Oregon that protect the property owner, allowing people on their property. So,
Well, it's interesting.
did I miss anything, Eric, that you'd like to add about history?
No, that was very good. Prior to the church owning it, it was a tree farm, and so a big portion of building the course was there were probably 5 holes that needed to have anything from an extremely overgrown Christmas tree to a very large pine tree pulled out of it. And then there were 3 holes that were buried in about 12 feet of blackberry bushes, and those holes still today, there's a lot of challenge to keep ahead of those blackberry bushes because they continue to want to come back. And so that's the biggest things with the maintenance with this course is, and the church has done a great job of keeping the main pathways or the main fairways open without it getting too overgrown. But in addition to that, hole number 5, when there's a waterway that goes through it. There's a small creek that comes out of the cattle farm that's on the north side of the property, and when that creek comes through in the heavier rains, it spreads to about 20 feet wide, not not 20 feet of pure water, but 20 feet of wet. And that hole number 5 is in the summer overgrows with stinging nettles, and the stinging nettles get to be about 4 or 5 feet high. So the hole number 5 chokes off to where if you don't have a perfect throw, it's very, very easy to lose your disc in those nettles. So that would be something I want to make sure you guys knew about, because that will be an ongoing maintenance problem.
You know, Eric, it's funny because the one thing Dan, who also walked it with me, really focused on is there are stinging nettles. I don't want to lose my disc here. So
Right.
just want to confirm, it's the church. Church does all the maintenance there?
Yes, so the Boy Scout troop comes in about once a year, and we'll cut branches down and trim it up and work on it. But the church itself, a matter of fact, Andrew Hatch, one of the other Eagle Scouts from Troop 149, now works on the maintenance crew for Willamette Christian Church, and he is part of the crew that mows it and keeps the fairways open.
Really? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, that's interesting because that never came up when we met with them about, I mean, they literally didn't think they did any maintenance, to be honest, Eric.
Somebody's mowing it.
So when we recently met with them, they have a landscape company that comes in and landscapes, but they said they don't go down there. And Paul, who met with Harry and other staff, you know, I mean, those were the conversations that we had about, you know, maintenance. And we can go through what we talked about and then at the board, but I mean, so I'm kind of surprised that someone at the church is actually mowing, because I don't think they do that. Someone must know.
And we're really only talking about holes 1, 2, and 3. Only 1, 2, and 3 have any kind of grass on them, and the hole number 2, it looks like it's a drain field for a septic system, and so they keep that field, that both hole 2 and 3 cross over the top of that field, and they keep some kind of maintenance with mowing that grass every once in a while, because I'll go up there and it's definitely been cut, you know, a foot down from where it was the time I was there before. So.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
So, what else do we know about current state, use, condition, access, and maintenance?
Well-
So I know you met with the church, so what came out of that, Ken?
Well, so just kind of historical perspective, I mean, we met with the church last October to, you know, kind of open this dialogue and conversation. And, you know, kind of set up, and then we had our staff and their staff that walked it and had conversations on the course and where it was at. We met with them again Tuesday this week. And had a further conversation with their management staff, their maintenance, and their you know, decision makers per se. And what we talked about, you know, we kind of talked about originally where the course came from and made sure we all understood. And we just kind of went through a checklist of concerns we kind of had in October. You know, we talked about restroom facilities, that the church is open and available, you know, during their business hours. Safeway can be available, there are restaurants, and neither one of us feel like we have the capability to put restroom facilities out there at this time. Liability issues we talked about already through Oregon Recreation Immunity. So we started to talk about, you know, course maintenance observations and what we could do to start moving this forward to make it more usable for the community. We talked about, you know, trash cans, what's necessary. We kind of talked about, well, we could probably put one garbage can out there, you know, near hole 1 at the beginning, or maybe by the little gravel parking lot. It would be very easy for the church to dump and maintain. We kind of felt like people aren't going to take a bunch of garbage in, you know, hopefully, you know, it's kind of like, it's disc golf, like golfing, right? If you can take a can of soda in, hopefully you'll bring it out or whatever it might be. We talked about mowing. We talked about, potentially our Parks Department being able to go in and seasonally hit, some of the fairways possibly. Our staff and their staff are gonna actually walk again next week to refine some of this, but, we talked about maybe that's twice a year, maybe we hit it, this time of year. As things dry, it gets dry enough to get on it and things are growing fast, and then maybe we hit it, September, August before it goes dormant, to kind of wipe it out for the year per se. We talked about looking forward on what would need to be mowed and, areas around the basket, what does that look like versus fairways and everything else. We talked about trees. We talked about, our park staff possibly being able to provide the arborist services. Where, we have, some trained staff and chainsaws, of course, to a certain level, depending on complexity of what needs to be removed. We may need to pay someone to remove a tree that's unsafe or something if there's a hazard in there, but we could evaluate and walk and take a look. That would potentially include, based on next step conversations with course complexity, right? What limbs need to come up, what limbs need adjacent to baskets, those types of things. The Willamette Christian Church, we compromised and we could go in and trim things, leave it lay on the ground, and they would be willing to get their volunteers together. We could put one of our red boxes on site and they could come in on a weekend or something and, just kind of pick up all those branches and get the debris off the course.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because that was my only concern was, I felt like there, I saw no garbage. Wasn't that fabulous? No garbage, but there's so much fuel on the ground right now from the.
And the church said, like a lot of places, some people are walking their dogs out there. And there are people who are going out and picking up garbage, even though they're not throwing it on the ground, which is great. We talked about some of the equipment. We talked about tee boxes. So the tee boxes now were kind of leveled at the time and they had the big black rubber mats put down. Some of those are not in ideal shape right now. The ground underneath is settled and they're a little bumpy, but we thought, we could try to level those and make it safe, right? They're still not perfect. We talked about what it would look like possibly in the future, where, as this is maybe a multi-year project to upgrade with the resources we have, maybe we frame the boxes in with 3/4 minus and, do some things that, you might have on a course that's in better shape. We talked about baskets and we talked about, having some arrow indicators and hole maps, that so that, people would know if you've never played there and you got your disc and you're standing on the tee box, it's like, well, where do I throw? So, having something just even lets them know the vicinity of the basket, right? So that would improve play.
Would that be like a sign or something at the?
Yeah, I mean, the tee box would have, in my vision, the tee box would maybe have, the 9-hole course laminated and maybe put there, but then you'd maybe have, this is hole 5, right? And a simple diagram of hole 5, right? And, if we cut down all the trees, it's easy to see the basket, but if you don't, like 2 of them, if they were playing, missed a hole and had to go back. So just a descriptor, and I don't know if that, Eric, conflicts with the complexity of the course, not knowing where to go, or is it still?
Yeah. That was a budget cut when the church paid for all of the course, where we had the option of getting individual signage for each hole, but it was too expensive.
Well, and yeah, we want to keep the original intent of the complexity, but make it playable, I guess I'll say.
So
I love it.
is that something that could be an Eagle Scout project to add signage?
So yes, you can do an Eagle project on top of an Eagle project as long as you add to the project. So if we were to take any portion of this and call it an Eagle project, we'd want to make sure that it was extensive enough that it would qualify. Maybe put in benches, maybe even like you're talking about, Ken, doing the tee boxes and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of things that could be used to improve that course that we could call it an Eagle project for sure.
Yeah, so Willamette Christian Church said that they would take on working on the signage itself.
Really?
You know, so, and they didn't define that, but we did talk about maybe having a small sign on their property, you know, kind of at the intersection of Salama and Brandywine, you know, I mean, and then doing some things on the poles to make it playable, or, you know, so that people know where to go. Now, I mean, I think with that being said, if an Eagle Scout wanted to work on like the course signage, Eric, I think, you know, the city could probably provide the 4x4s, you know, or something. I mean, if you want to put a post in and mount something to a post, and you know, I think that's something that we could probably partner on. I just don't have a bunch of labor to throw at it like a lot of projects, but I mean, a lot of kind of conversation about signage and what that means. And then, yeah, Willamette Christian Church talked about probably potentially replacing, you know, there are no parking signs come on, kind of on Brandywine, which just, you know, maybe having a parking sign on the little gravel parking area past their entrance, kind of maybe signing that disc golf parking or something so that, you know, people kind of know where to park. Not that their parking lot isn't open and pretty available much of the time. So that's kind of where we left it after this week's meeting, and like I say, our staffs are gonna walk next week, hopefully it's a nice day.
Tuesday.
And,
Look, my God.
and, you know, try to kind of,
Tuesday, but that's it.
kind of refine, and I guess part of that, Eric, is gonna be, you know, how do we coordinate, removing branches, limbs, small trees that keep the integrity of the design, but make it, I don't know, either playable or more playable. And I don't know, you know, our staff and their staff, unfortunately, I don't think any of us knew that it was designed to be as difficult as it is. You know, if that makes sense. So I think we need to have a conversation about, you know, how do we decide what gets trimmed? But, you know, to open it up a little if we do, to make sure we keep it safe. That makes sense.
Well, especially with all of the storm damage. I mean, that's what really pushed it over into
Sure,
a new realm.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I think some of it's gonna be pretty clear. This needs to come out, the street fell down, then you know what, but at the same time, I wanna make sure that we're not going in and trimming too much. And it loses the integrity of how it's designed, right? I mean, to be not open, or not as open as some of the other courses that are wide open.
So did your discussion with the church talk at all about we'll call it the water hazard?
We didn't really talk about the water. You know, but,
That could be bridged or something. maybe.
there's another Eagle Scout project.
There's another one.
Boardwalk.
Bridge over the other.
It'd only need to be, you know, a couple inches high.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but it was pretty much, oh, it wasn't Tuesday. it was
Yeah.
fine.
No, we didn't talk about that, to be honest. I mean, they'll probably see it. I can't remember what the weather was like in October when they walked. But it certainly will be a little thing on next week.
Yes, it will. Self-evident.
Do you think that sounds like a good Eagle project? Eric, what do you think?
Oh,
Boardwalk,
for sure.
go
Yeah,
through
for
the,
sure. We have Eagle projects that are just strictly boardwalks in Westland parks. So that would absolutely qualify.
And I guess the last thing we talked about, you know, was signage with QR codes. We would be willing as the city to put, you know, a simple web page up on, as part of our Parks and Rec program as a partnership. You know, I did express that sometimes on occasion in the past, we've had great success partnering with the church. And on other occasions, we've had, issues with the separation of church and state and complaints that came in and we've had to bow out of projects. So, Hopefully that won't be an issue. I think that this is something that, is a value to the community to, it's the only course we have in the city, and people do want to play. We've had many different people come through the years about throwing one at Marius Young or putting them here or there, and there is one and we should utilize it. And, we talked a little bit about just on topic of maybe putting some baskets in parks where people could just play, not 9 holes, but if you wanted to go practice and we have an open field, you could go throw your discs and have a couple baskets. So we think there's value in partnering. It happens to be a church that owns the property, so.
And who's willing to do some of the work. That's
Absolutely, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, to include, I know if there were an Eagle Scout project, part of the deal for the scout is to recruit a workforce, and I know the church would be happy to contribute some labor to that as well, so. It all sounds good.
so it sounds like you've really done a lot of work on this, Ken. I mean, to thumb way up for you for getting so much of this worked out, because it isn't all within our circle of control. I mean,
Right.
it's really church property, as they'll call
It is, absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
But
right.
it sounds like you're also willing to put a little bit of staff time and a little bit of budget to it as well.
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, our conversation was, we don't have the staff to do it weekly, but I mean, we would rather come in and do seasonal things, get it done and move on. I mean, if there are issues, we might be able to come help, if something, tree falls down or something like that. But, to add more garbage can emptying and mowing on a weekly basis and things just is too much for us to take on right now. So.
Right. So, but having a garbage can at hole 1, or hole 9,
They're very close.
Yeah, you're right.
Those two are pretty close.
Yeah. At the parking area, and the church said that they would.
Yeah, they
maintain that.
they monitor that and they already monitor some cans outside on their property. I think what they don't, they weren't willing to do was put like 5 garbage cans out
Right.
throughout the whole course that you have to monitor. And, the difficulty with garbage cans, if you don't know, where people walk their dogs, is you have to check them very frequently because
Yes.
they get very heavy, very fast.
Well,
Not only yucky, but heavy. So that's kind of why they wanted to keep it on the fringe of the borders where they could get to it easily, which makes a lot of sense.
mhm. Well, everything that you're talking about is a big improvement. So are there any issues or thoughts or concerns that you feel either were not addressed in your conversation with the church, or that you didn't feel real confident that they'd be real successful? Or do you feel like you covered, from your perspective, the most significant things?
Well, we thought we covered most things, but we're certainly willing to hear from all of you if you think we missed something that we can readdress. I mean, that you might think might pop up. And this is going to be, like I said, it's not going to be the Taj Mahal overnight, but we can, over the next couple of years with a partnership, we can, hopefully improve it, get the community using it and, reach out. I think we could possibly reach out to some disc golf clubs that may also volunteer and help or guide us if we need, some expertise that we don't have in the Parks Department. We did have someone who was interested in disc golf on our staff, but they're no longer with us. So, we're not the experts, so we're willing to listen to T-box designs and, those types of things that we haven't built before.
Right. Well, it sounds like Julie had a concern that would be really helpful to have a map. And Chris had mentioned there's some trees down, a course card with the map. Those were some things that were mentioned. I mentioned the trees as well. And it sounds like you kind of worked through a plan for all of those somewhat, or at least the conceptual agreement.
Yeah, in theory, absolutely.
So Eric, I know that you had some additional suggestions. What has not been mentioned so far?
Just in that last comment that Ken, you were talking about there with the signage and all that, typical disc golf culture, let's call it, is just post one sign at hole one, and then the disc golfer will take a picture of it on their phone,
Okay.
and then they'll follow that map. They'll follow that map off of their phone. But the individual signage on each hole is huge. That would definitely tell them which direction to throw it, especially on holes like hole number one, where you have no idea where that first where that first basket is without some kind of guidance or walking it first. But I don't see the need for the cards you're talking about or more extensive mapping throughout the course, other than the hole by hole smaller ones, because most most disc golfers will, like I say, take a picture of that big map before they start so that they know and refer to it.
So we just need an Eagle Scout to put in maybe a smaller kiosk and we put the map right on it. See, we're up to 4 Eagle Scout projects already.
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't need a kiosk.
Speak, please.
I don't think.
Okay.
Okay.
What else, Eric? Did you have any other thoughts or suggestions?
And then the other thing I would throw out is that our the Boy Scout troop is smaller than it was before. We came out of COVID with about half the size that we had before. However, the boys still love playing disc golf there. Almost all of our campouts are designed around disc golf, and so we would still be more than willing to do at least once a year service project where we'd come up there for 2, 3, 4 hours, and in conjunction with the Parks Department, and do cleanup, cutting, moving, mowing, taking branches out, anything like that. So we're there.
And that includes dads with chainsaws.
Yes. Vicky's husband was part of our initial crew to pull the big trees out of that.
Wow.
And in one day, I think the two dads that helped us where they were able to drop 3 trees, and then we hooked up with a chainsaw blade company, and they brought all of their engineers out with about 30 chainsaws, and they dropped all the other 60 trees in the course of a few hours and cut them all up and made them into firewood in short order.
So, could you remind me, what did the church agree to with the signage?
Well, we kind of just left it at, they would work on the signage kind of. And that's kind of where we left it. We did talk about maybe a disc golf sign at the intersection of Brandywine and Salamo, on their legal little sign on their property, not a big monument or anything, but, and then maybe signage at the gravel parking. And then, we did talk about just signage throughout the course, so people knew where to go.
Right.
No, I don't think we certainly didn't make any definitive decisions on what that looks like, what it would be. Could be as simple as laminating sheets of paper with a map hanging from a tree.
That's,
It
that would be helpful, yeah.
sounds like there's a lot of agreement in concept.
Mhm.
Would everyone kind of agree to that? It sounds like the board, the staff, the originators, everybody is kind of in agreement on concept. Would it be helpful, or would it be more of a hindrance to maybe suggest a little task force to just, here's who's doing what, and sequence kind of an action plan out?
I mean, I think if someone on the board wanted to be involved, and do those things. And I think the other step I would like is to, at some point, we figure out with Eric and, as we look at the trees and branches that need to come out, where do we stop or where do we start and not change the integrity of this design that's created? Because we're not gonna know. We're gonna say, these are all on the way, whack them. So that would be the other piece, would be great to, and we don't have to drive that bus, but, even if someone on the board wants to be involved with the scouts and walk it and let us know what we want to take out. I mean, we can determine what needs to be taken out for safety, right? Trees that, are hazardous or something, but, the rest of it is more, playability and, what it should look like when it's done, I guess.
Is there somebody, Eric, in the troop who's still quite passionate about disc golf?
Not the Carson level of passionate, but definitely loves to play. And I would even be willing to be that person, Ken, to give tours, whether that is one tour or an annual tour or whatever, of integrity and what the concept is of what to stay, what to trim. Because even hole number 6 is a great example. Hole number six, which is the one that is up in the northwest corner of the property and goes along the cattle farm area. That was originally designed as a three-shot hole that snaked along the fence line, and people playing it discovered that if they knocked all the branches off to the left-hand side of that, they could actually shortcut and get to the basket in 2 shots. And so that one has already been permanently, when you play it now, you only see hole 6 as as the new hole. You don't even recognize the other fairway anymore, because as soon as it got knocked out with people playing it, then they stopped going the intended direction.
And, it may be that it's transformed to a point that we changed the par on the tee.
Now it's part. Yeah.
So, it may not be a bad idea. I think that, I'm going to just ask, we have kind of some general, agreement. Do you feel like we, as a advisory board, would like to advise that we want to make this move forward, put a little energy into it? Is this something that we are supportive of? John and Jane, thoughts?
It looks like you're well on the way to getting everything that you want to get. So I think we're fine.
Yeah, I'd say thank you, Eric, so much for the clarification. It helps me figure out what my feedback's going to be, knowing who owns what and what's going to happen. So I would say like parking is the biggest issue, because I know just driving past, I wasn't sure, like, can I park here? Is this really a sign? Like, where is it? Kind of thing was my biggest concern. And then certainly something like the nettles, not everyone is from here or can identify different plants. And so I can just see the kids like flinging frisbees and meandering through the forest, something like that should be taken care of sooner rather than later, I would think. But thanks.
I agree. I think we're on a good path, and it sounds like the church, the scout troop, and the city are working together on this. I think we ought to be able to come to agreement and get more attention to it, so it gets used more. And then,
nice.
Yeah.
And the signage would help greatly.
Yes.
And I think that would be a key right there. So.
And just as a little clarification from on the street itself, there's parking on the side opposite the course. The no parking on the side of the course is largely trying to be good neighbors with the neighborhood down the hill, because Sunday mornings when the services are full, parishioners park on the side there. You can't park on both sides at the same time and still get through. So the church has been kind of sticky about that, just trying to remain good neighbors with the folks down there.
Yeah, the no parking on Brandywine is really not connected to disc golf, except it's right next to it.
Yeah, but the obvious place is that gravel lot. I mean, it's certainly, they've got the whole paved lot, but it's a little farther away.
Yeah.
But I think a sign there, just a disc golf park would be
Yeah.
good, and I would think the church would support that.
They were, and we talked about trying to lay out, you know, at least on the website, when we get there, we kind of just lay out all these things, right? You know, preferred parking is here, you know, and just kind of, you know, general information and have the course map, of course, and just kind of rules, policies that hopefully people would just abide by. Yeah.
So, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to suggest that, I mean, Eric said that he would be willing to maybe, take the time to help with, a more detailed plan and, just get, you know, provide input and feedback on what's needed in some of these areas. And, I'm willing to, volunteer for, as a representative from the board. And can, you know, maybe the three of us can meet up there,
Sure.
with somebody. Is it Sherry you're working with?
Yeah, we're working with Sherry, but Paul, I don't know, Paul's the maintenance
Yeah.
lead, and he's gonna be the one that's gonna be out there with Jen from our staff, kind of starting to walk the course again and, you know, kind of talk about that maintenance and what can we simply do for upgrades process.
And you said Jen from?
Jennifer, yeah.
Oh,
Jen,
okay.
yeah. Our park maintenance supervisor.
Maintenance.
Like I said, they're gonna walk next week. That doesn't mean they're gonna make all the decisions, because now that we kind of know, we can work together, right? And tell them, yeah, it was designed to be what it is, and that's.
Eric, do you have any availability during the daytime, or are you really, more focused on evenings?
Mornings, I would almost always have open before noon. My schedules from noon to 6 o'clock vary every week. And so I have a lot of availability. I just don't necessarily know what it is from week to week. I have to wait until the week of to tell you what I have available.
Okay.
But anything before noon, I would always have that open.
I'd like to suggest maybe, at least for the beginning, is that something, Ken, that, because you've really been orchestrating all of the agreements in the background. Maybe we can find a morning and that we can all get together and just, okay, what exactly is gonna happen, who's gonna do what? And
Yeah, and like I said, I think they may have a meeting set 9 AM on Tuesday, if I remember correct, but that's not that we have to hold to that, but I mean, they were gonna walk next week. You know, I may talk to them tomorrow and say, well, let's, you know, maybe we stall that a little so the two of you can be involved, because I don't want them to go out and decide they're gonna cut down all these things, and then, you know, a second walk says, don't cut all those things, we're just wasting time, so. And I'm not sure it's Tuesday. I remember them seeing an email, them communicating already, so.
Well, Tuesday looks like your best day.
I'm available at 9 o'clock Tuesday to join you.
Well, now you're.
Do that.
Make sure my memory's good.
I gotta check.
But I will check in the morning and find out if they have something scheduled, and I can reach out, obviously, to the two of you and see if that might work, and, you know, if not, we'll delay it a couple days. 1 week's not gonna kill us either way.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, now, at this point, do we need to make a motion for something, Ken?
No.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you wanted to just making a motion in support of, partnership to, with Linn Christian Church to,
Somebody like to make.
improve and,
That's
it's very simple.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the Parks and Rec continue to partner with the Linn Christian Church to look for a solution to improve the usability and the use of the disc golf course.
I'll second.
And maybe include the Boy Scout Troop 149 as well.
So City Parks and Rec continue to partner with Linn Christian Church and BSA Troop 149 to improve access and usability. It's called.
Usability and visibility.
Yeah, ability and visibility of this golf. Did that
Yeah.
capture?
It does.
And Julie, you second?
No, I will second that.
So all in favor?
All right,
Unanimous, super. So our action forward is, getting some of this a little bit more detailed. Potentially next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. The sunniest day of the week. Yes, the sunniest day of the week. Right.
Well, the no rain day of the week, I don't think there was sun with.
Onions.
Yes, we
We
are,
could be in the rain.
yeah. There are no little yellow sun next week, but there was no rain on Tuesday. So,
All right, and then I do want to check in. It seems like the board is pretty enthusiastic. But Eric, how are you feeling about this discussion?
I love it. Love it. It's undoubtedly one of my favorite courses to play. So I would love to see more people out there enjoying it as much as I do.
Right, and Ken, how are you feeling about this? Do you have any concerns at this point going forward?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we just need to keep our commitments realistic from a staff standpoint and with time and understand that it's not gonna all happen overnight, but we want to improve it for this year, progressive, and then next year will be better as we move through the seasons, That's it.
Well, it's been my experience that some Eagle Scouts have a hard time visualizing a project. And if we have, it sounds like we have 3 perfect projects that could be used.
Potentially.
That would be awesome. A boardwalk through the marsh, through the water hazard. Okay, are there any other comments or input? Is there, it sounds like the only additional information we need is to get the details hammered out, right? Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you, Mr. Waller, for joining us. You can tell your son that we missed him.
We got you.
Sounds good.
So
Thank you for all your time.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Eric. Okay. Our council liaison, I hope that you had a chance to walk the course as well and.
She would jump off.
Oh, she's off?
She gave us a chat, so she'll, she said.
Okay, well, then I'm just talking to the.
Yeah, I don't think she knows all that. We'll hold that for a second.
Okay. So that went a little longer than, we thought, but that's fine. Did the board get a chance to take a look at the, kind of finalized plan that we put together? And the only thing I added was an introductory page. So I hope that was okay.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Oh, and I added some key links.
Links are fantastic.
I believe in links.
A very small change. There's an S on my last name, in my last name.
Owens.
Yeah. That was the only thing I found.
Okay. I will make that change. Thank you. Getting that. Jane and John, any comments or changes? We good?
No, fine.
All right. And then, great, that make that easy.
Save
Loving that.
some time there.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go right into the Recreation and Adult Community Center update. Okay. Okay, April. We had Earth Day, Work Day events
Yeah.
last weekend in April. Great turnout. Worked with our Wilderness Park volunteer group. Did about 75 or plus volunteers. Of ivy pullings and trail maintenance, chip trails and stuff like that. Yeah, wonderful turnout.
Thank you for the
Lions.
pictures too, that was pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Weather cooperated. It was great. And the Lions graciously hosted lunch for everybody, so it was, yeah, a nice surprise for them. We also had McLean House that had a workday party also that same day, so they had a great turnout. They had a lot done down there. It looks beautiful down there. I mean, you haven't had a chance to take a look at McLean House.
My daughter just got married there last October.
Oh, yeah. It's changed since then, so yeah, we go in with a group of folks working on the garden down there, so it's looking really nice. And then they also had a work party at Palomino Park. Open space back there, so. Reaching out. Also on that Sunday. That's great.
What's that?
We've been working on our summer classes. And our brochure got mailed out. I wasn't sure if it got mailed out before our last meeting or not, around that same time, but hopefully everybody got that. We've got a lot of classes that are full already.
Really?
Yeah, we're programming our own summer camps, bringing back Fun and Sun, minis and shorties. We're kind of short on some staff, so a lot of those are full. 30 right now, so we're really hoping to get more rec staff. What are the requirements for rec staff? What's the age requirement? It could be 18 and older. 18 and older. Working with children, so.
CPR first aid kind of.
We take care of that. We have trained, we do a course for that. We have them go to a summer leadership training program. And so we offer some training, and then just a week-long scenarios and stuff like that. So we get prepared for camp. So we're looking for site supervisors and rec attendants and director. We're doing some interviews next week. We do have about 5 that are finished right now. So that's good. It's a start.
It is a start. And is it 40 hours, 35 hours?
It's 35 to 40. Yeah. Monday through Friday.
They'll kind of average 40 because we also pull them into a lot of our events.
Sure.
They can work in music park,
Mhm.
fairs, and things if they so desire to help us out in different areas.
Just extra hours.
Yeah. So the temporary kind of position that.
It's just for the summer. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And we
Yeah,
might
might know some
get about 12 of them, so we need applicants.
Yes, we do.
Qualified applicants.
Qualified applicants.
Qualified.
Seeing our seniors that are graduating this year in there on that.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Especially anyone interested in teaching or childcare. It's great. What's the pay for that?
So,
15 maybe? It ranges. Yeah, ranges, yeah. It's gonna be bumped up and a little bit more.
started at 15, 50%.
Something like that, yeah.
There's 3 different levels. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're Directors, supervisors, and then counselors, basically.
So we had, our ACC, plant sale last week. It was pouring down rain. Sorry, I kind of blocked that out a little bit, but oh my goodness, everybody came out. It was a huge success. I mean, very, very busy. So that was a 2-day, plant sale. We did very well. We've been working with the library on the Story Walk series at Fields Bridge Park.
So if you get down there, you'll see some new stands and the holders they put in yesterday.
Okay.
I think there's so many of them. So it's really nice. So, and they're hoping to get the first book installed by next week. So, and it'll be on the left side of the playground.
Yep.
Over there. So yeah,
Okay.
it's really neat. It
Oh,
looks
good.
really good. Yeah. The ones they put in.
Oh, that's.
And so. That's about it. Oh, program for the summer, as you can see. Where
Time, that's a big
music
time.
movies
Yeah.
are just next month is everything starting. They get on camps.
With the new registration system, has that made the workload a little bit easier?
Yes. Especially for
Because-
the recreation, you know, the
Yeah.
for camps, because we don't have that convenience fee and online, it's been fantastic. Really user friendly from what we've heard, you know, from the citizens. So yeah, it's been great.
I mean, because it's not like, oh, you have free time. It's that, you know, maybe you might be able to stop and have lunch.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, like Tara said, with the last system we had, there was that convenience fee, right? There was the third party. So a lot of people, I mean, you know, if you were gonna register for a couple $100 worth of camps, that number gets a little significant. So there's really no excuse now for people not to go online and do it themselves, except they don't want to, which is fine. They're also going through training right now, and we're getting ready to put all of our facilities online. And so we'll be eventually reserving all of our 10 shelters in our parks, Sunset Fire Hall, Adult Community Center. And those will be, you know, slowly phased in as we, you know, can't take it all at once, but that'll happen. And that'll also save a lot of time, because, you know, those now people have to call in, you know, they have to ask all the questions. Software package will be able to have direct link to our webpage, we'll have pictures and hopefully answer all the questions they may have that will hopefully save our staff a lot of time. That should be great.
Yes.
Just use your time differently, right?
Okay. And I'm just looking, is there, I have my cheat chart of major events. I can't tell you how many, I'm used to this. Is there anything more definitive around the Juneteenth celebration?
It's
Yes.
Juneteenth is still evolving. There's still, you know, I think, the musical acts are all confirmed, the sound is confirmed. We're still, and this is kind of being led by the library and, citizen committee, but, they're working on soliciting vendors now and, you know, making sure we have everyone there we want for the community. So it's not completely solidified. I apologize, I was gonna look up the time. Jules, do you know the time on that? I know it's afternoon like it was, the cultural fair in the fall. I'm thinking like 1 to 5, but don't nail me down on that, I apologize. Yep,
You're on mute.
Put in a chat.
well, I think that's a ballpark.
Awesome.
I will definitely define that. I apologize.
And I know the Willamette Street Market isn't
Right.
your thing, but it starts at the end of the month too.
Right, so
That's
they
exciting.
have, yeah, so Willamette Main Street has submitted their special events permit.
Mhm.
That's what the city really does. We support them. You know, so we've got that, what they would like to do, you know, they're going to set up similar to last year, authorized to utilize the bike lanes, you know, for their booths. They want to close 14th Street, from the Ale House back to 8th.
Mhm.
They utilize that area. They're gonna have their market from 14th to 16th. They have a large number of booths request, is my understanding, much more than last year, so far. They're working with our Public Works Department on music, you know, down there on Main Street. We have the capability for speakers and, you know, they were trying to integrate the local band they have and plug them in, so we'll go down all the way up and down the Main Street, which We don't know if we can do that, but we could play track music all up and down the street, but they're trying to decide if that melds with their artists, and so, they're ready, I think, and we're gonna make sure that hopefully we can get everything approved and all our i's dotted, t's crossed. Because it's gonna start.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else for recreation, big events, adult community center that we need to go over? It's a pretty big deal.
Bus trips in the fall on the popular,
Okay.
and Jules said, yeah, Ken was right, the time, what'd you say, 1 to 5?
I think 1 to 5, yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. And where is that gonna be?
That's gonna be down in Willamette Park in, the fenced-in area that is utilized as the beer garden for the fair, where the sand volleyball court is in that stage, where the music will be, and potentially out on the grass area out in front of that, by the parking area if needed for vendors or displays of some type.
All right, I will take ownership for making those two changes to this. And I will create a PDF of clean product and resend it.
Okay, thank you.
With the updated times and stuff. So if there's anything else you want to see changed in this, just get it to me.
I will throw out, there's one other event, kind of, that we're partnering with. So in 2020 and 2021, a gentleman in Willamette on 6th Street started a concert series called Under the Willow. And we kind of found out about this, and he was doing a lot of things and paying artists out of his pocket. He brings in sound, he brings in a porta potty, and
Wow.
we kind of, during the pandemic, it kind of just happened, and as we saw it this year, it's like, oh no, we're kind of back to normal. You need to do a special events permit, you need the insurance, you're in the right of way and all these things, and it's like, some of these things are complex and difficult for individuals to do, right? So I went and met with them, and we kind of decided this is good for the community. He's gonna do about 11 of them. In the past, have attracted about 200 people. He's talked to every neighbor on his block. We're treating it as a block party and making sure everybody on his block is aware where we're gonna close the street, like he has, and the next block over, so a 3-block area, he's gonna get signatures from everybody that they're okay and understand what's gonna happen in the neighborhood. And so we're working with him to, make those happen, take some of the financial pressure off him of guaranteeing 11 national artists for $1,000 each, plus other expenses for sound and porta potties, and so we're kind of evolving on that. We're not gonna promote it very heavily as a city, because we want to see how it kind of grows organically. He had about 150 people last year, and we don't want to turn it to 500 overnight, but we want to support it as coming out of pandemic and COVID, just a great thing in the neighborhood, right? So that's kind of an event that the first one is May 22nd. There's Sunday evenings, a very low traffic time in Willamette, so parking shouldn't be an issue, and it hasn't been. And actually in 2020, he worked with Jay Willie's. He brought their menus out and they ordered food, and Jay Willie's waiting staff actually brought in a block down and delivered it to them at the concert. So it was really a good part. It was a good thing. So that's kind of an event that we're gonna help with and keep it going.
So is that weekly for 11 weeks?
It's every other week. So it starts May 22nd, and I think it goes to the end of September. It's almost every other week. There's a couple off, but it's just someone who's been on community a long time and is well connected to the music industry and just wanted to do something good for the community. So
That sounds
you
awesome.
see that one, well, promoting it lightly to see how
Okay.
big it gets, and we don't want to make trouble.
Right.
So that's kind of, so you're aware of that.
Okay, the 6th and,
It's on 6th Avenue. It's 1636 Avenue.
Okay.
Go to the Willow Tree.
Right, that's what I was saying, the willow tree. Okay. I can do that. There's a map. There's a map.
I just have to applaud our staff for being so open-minded and flexible to be
Yeah.
making something good. It would be so easy to say, that's not a part thing and end up saying, no, 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 and instead really working to make it work. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yep, agreed.
You know,
I like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and, department and project update. Ken.
yeah, okay, so, been busy. So we spoke last month about the Willamette Greenway Trail and the survey we had done and the Fifth Avenue extension, that the survey and some of the steep slopes made it not as feasible as we anticipated. We had our consulting team, including the mayor and city manager, and they actually met today with Willamette Paper Mill. Had some good conversations this morning. As you know, Paper Mill has some lease rights down in that area on PGE owned property. And they had some great conversations. So it looks like, you know, we've kind of fallen back to our original plan, which was the Riverfront Trail, ideally, you
Right.
know, from Willamette Park all the way down to McLean House someday, potentially. And it looks like, you know, in conversations with the mill, they want us or are willing to let us propose some Riverfront Trail, you know, kind of on near their pond. And so we're going to continue working with them. We're optimistic that we can come up with, you know, a trail down there that will achieve some of our goals, you know, in the very near future. You know, there's still some obstacles we have with the couple of pieces that are in private ownership. The good thing is the individual that owns the 35 acres, the first pond, and kind of piece of property that went to the river, if you recall, two of them. He's actually coming in to do some land use things with the city, with our planning department. So our planning manager going to have at least an opportunity to engage him and hopefully kind of find out what his plan may be for the property, so we can open a dialogue on a trail or some type of partnership of some type, you know, based on what he may have a vision for. So that's exciting news. We're starting our partnership with Public Works. They're going to help us as we receive the grant for Cedar Oak parking lot. We talked about the redesign and new asphalt at Cedar Oak parking. We are moving forward with the Mary S. Young overflow parking, the parking lot that kind of got destroyed further during the storm. They're going to help do some design work for us, and we're going to, looks like we will be able to probably put asphalt down that whole parking lot, which has been in our capital improvement plan for over a decade, and we have some funding. We accomplished street tree plantings for the season in the past month. Very difficult to find all the trees that we needed to accomplish that and get that done before we hit our sunny season and are done. We are starting a project at Merrillhurst Park. Just a small project. We have a little swing set that kind of sits off to the side. It doesn't have a playground border to hold chips, so they kind of go everywhere. And we also need to put an ADA access ramp down that swing set. So that'll hopefully happen in about the next 6 weeks. We've started and continued doing stuff in our parks. We finished up Hammerley and Sunset Park. They're moving to Bensky and Skyline Ridge. All those trees that unfortunately we had to, after the storm, we'll stump grind, get all the stumps ground down, and we are starting to look at replanting, hopefully next fall, what that looks like in our parks for replanting trees. We've started working with Northwest Youth Corps that we've used for a number of years in our parks. They'll be working with us in June, and we're probably going to schedule with them in July. For those of you that might not be familiar, those are 9-person youth crews with 2 leaders. And, you know, we utilize them for a number of things, invasive species, trail building. You know, we'll have them cut some of the fire hazards at the White Oak Savannah again and partner with them. We also are going to partner with a group called the Lake Oswego Youth Rangers. There's a gentleman that wrote a grant, and he has about 8 weeks of a youth program that are going to work in Lake Oswego and Clackamas County. And he called and asked if we had any work for his youth crew. So they will be spending about 2 weeks with us in July, working with us at Marius Young to accomplish potentially trail building, invasive species removal, or wildfire mitigation. We're working with our friends of the McLean House. If you recall, this year we put up a plaque for them. They have been our friends group and supported the McLean House for 40 years. Conversations right now, as happens with some friends group, they're in a position where there's 3 executive board members. One of them has moved out of state. The other 2 have been kind of long-term and are their terms are going to end. So they are ready to solicit some new leadership. And they're hopeful they have a meeting Monday that they can recruit leadership. And if you're not familiar, that's a heavy lift for that group because their partnership includes management and operations of the McLean House. They handle all the booking for their weddings, and all their events, and provide a lot of the budget or some of the budget for everything that happens on the grounds. So we're hopeful that they can recruit. If you know anybody who wants to be part of that group, let us know. Our staff is busy getting our 5 spray parks ready that open Memorial Day weekend. We're hopeful sun someday. But
We've been under a really large spray.
Yes. A little chilly.
yeah, but it still has to happen. They're also getting all of our shelters ready, pressure washed, and we already have picnics and events that are happening in our parks with the lovely weather. Cedar Island Bridge, we were able to, our staff, to put that back in place this week or in last week. Don't recall, but it's back in place. So hopefully people will be able to enjoy that, and people won't trample on the neighbor's property as they try to swim across the channel. I just want to recognize our staff for Earth Day. Did a great job with all the volunteers at Wilderness Park. The Lions Club was out. Thanks to them, they came and cooked burgers for everybody. The Adult Community Center plant sale happened on horrible rainy days, and we had staff come in on their regular days off and work to accomplish that. As I tried to explain to you, and I want everybody to understand, the volunteer workforce in Westland has grown exponentially. I mean, it's almost crazy how many groups we have now that are out there every weekend, plus 2 or 3 groups on a weekend, doing great things in our parks, open spaces. The thing that we are working to balance now, a little bit in some spaces, is that for the past 18 months, as you all know, we've had storms, high heat, high intensity weather, and a major concern with wildfires, right?
Yeah.
So as people who live on open spaces are concerned with wildfires, they want to take a lot of the material out of the open spaces. Some people will want them to be beautiful, which means removing everything that isn't attached. There's other ways to accomplish this by leaving some things in so the forest floor is healthy and we're not taking everything out. So we're kind of working with different groups now, or starting to balance what gets to be taken out and what stays in to leave it in a natural state, and it's a healthy environment for the plants, animals, birds, and everything else. So those are just conflicts people don't think of, but you have people on each end of the spectrum that we're dealing with. So we're working with some groups and getting phone calls on why are they taking everything out, or why are they making us leave it? So just little obstacles we have to deal with that you might be aware of if you hear that some people think we're stripping the land and other people think we're not taking out enough. So we're trying to balance those interests.
Just along these lines, I know that the city does very well on a small budget. especially for Parks and Rec staff, but I personally would just like to suggest, and Jules, or maybe this is more for our city council, but as our volunteer base grows, we run the risk of not being able to optimize that resource that costs us nothing. And the city may want to consider a volunteer coordinator and as a position, a paid position. And when I think about our bond projects and our transportation projects and our park projects, I just really observe a heavy use of consultants. And I really think that we're at a point, especially with parks and rec, they used to have 2 managers, really only having 1, to maybe consider funding a project manager role for the city. I think that expecting our staff to continue to manage the projects, manage hundreds and hundreds of volunteers and dozens of events is in the long run costing us, because again, I think it sub-optimizes the free volunteer resources. And I think that we end up spending as a city more money on consultants, fragmented consulting pattern. As a consultant, I know that this adds a lot of money to a given project. And as a project manager, a consultant, I know I only focus on my project and what my people want to see happen. What we lose there is the city perspective of strategically, we're doing this, this, and this. We can leverage some of these efforts. So I don't mean to interrupt your presentation, but I am amazed at what you're accomplishing, Ken. As you're going through this, I've never heard how many years have I been on the park board? So much happening with so few resources. 1, to recognize excellent work, but then 2, with this comes, I think that we have a risk with the volunteer coordination and I think we have an issue with the lack of, a project manager for the city. So I'm not saying that as chair or making a motion, as a person who's observing this. I just see that needs to be said. And I don't know, Jules, if it's helpful at all, but to hear that, but it's definitely as you do more and more excellent work, and as people are coming out of the pandemic and wanting to be involved, there's only so much our staff can do. So I think it needs to be said. Any other comments on this, or am I just kind of?
No, I am gonna have to agree with you 100%, because the current staffing level, Ken, I'm sure you probably go home at 8 o'clock every night and not on weekends. Because you're managing a lot, and Tara too, so having somebody else, but it's coordinated too with Public Works and everybody else. I think there's a huge coordination between Parks and Rec, Community Services and Public Works and all of those things. So I would highly recommend too, looking into hiring another full-time staff person to help alleviate some of these things in coordination.
I'm thinking volunteer coordinator in Parks and Rec, and then a project manager on the city staff management team. I don't even know what you guys call yourselves. Management team? Leadership team?
Well, I mean,
Grand boss.
in Parks and Rec, we have myself, and we have 2 supervisors. Tara supervises our rec staff, and 6 of them, and Jen supervises our 8 park maintenance staff. So the park volunteer staff is you're right. It's created more work for Tara, who handles all of our adoptive park programs and every event that happens in our parks that we know about. Some things happen we don't know about, and then she coordinates with Jen, our park maintenance supervisor, who does you know, if Tara can't do it, the on-site walkarounds on what they're gonna do, what we'd like them to do and partner, and then get the red boxes out there and make sure that, you know, it's a coordinated effort. So, you know, our intent is to spend the time, you know, because a number of years ago, someone would go volunteer and they might just pile a giant pile of sticks on the side of the road. You know, that we have to go pick up instead of having it in a red box, you know, so at least they load it, we haul it, you know, that's our goal now, is to minimize, you know, good things happening, but make sure that we're trying to do it as efficiently as possible. But it has, with every new group, it does take, you know, Tara's time and Jen's time away from, you know, something else they could be doing to change those, so. But it's working, and we're happy that we have volunteers,
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
making a difference in so many of our parks and open spaces every day, every week. I think that's all I had, unless there's questions, concerns, I can answer something else on projects.
Awesome. Are there any questions from the board? I thought that was an excellent overview. And is there a way that we can just get, you were kind of reading off a list, get that in the minutes?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Just so that, I mean, it's substantial. It is. And I would, no, I appreciate that in the minutes. Items of interest and any feedback from city council, Jules? Smiley face and emoji.
Not really.
Not tonight. Next month.
Okay, all right. So just a quick meeting summary and council communications. We are going forward with a micro group to continue the work for the disc golf. I took ownership for updating our plan, getting a new copy out, and it sounds like a lot of stuff is underway. Just tons of
Busy
stuff.
season coming up.
Are there any other action items as we begin to close our meeting tonight? Or is that a general summary? Is that okay? All right. I'd like to just do a preparation for our next meetings in June, July. Prior to the June meeting, we said that we would visit Willamette Park and review the bond projects to prepare for the discussion regarding the Go Bond projects at Willamette Park. Trail viewing, non-motorized boat launch, water play area, bonus points for anybody who actually launches a kayak and goes
Okay.
out of there, you know, not that it's a competition or anything. You take them all.
Yeah, watch it out a lot.
And then just a reminder, prior to July, visit Mary S. Young and prepare for a discussion regarding park resources for dogs. I took the liberty of kind of changing up our agenda a little bit and the process, and I just wanted to ask the park board as we close tonight, was this kind of change of pace with the agenda okay with you? Jane?
Sorry, I have a question. I just remembered for Ken. So Keisha and Lydia, our neighborhood presidents, asked me to ask you when the porta potty is going to come to Skyline Park. Any ETA on that?
Right after school's out, so like June 22nd.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
And please tell them, we will instruct Honey Bucket to put it on the other side of the little shed. And they always show up, they'll call us, and if they put it on the wrong side of the shed, we will move it to the right side of the shed, like we have for the past. Because someone will call us and be very mad if it's on the wrong side of the shed.
Yeah.
Will just the conversation started because this weekend on Saturday, I'm just doing my dishes and I see a woman and she was squatting against the neighbor's fence peeing. So we had a little conversation about like, is it coming soon or the weather's changing? So there's more people out there. And yeah, that's what generated the
Looks
conversation.
like she's still got 6 weeks of having to pee on the side of the fence.
That's awesome. Ooh.
Okay. That's too bad.
Maybe it's nice we can get it.
Any other, feedback or comments on our process or discussion tonight from the board? All right, then, I'll go ahead and